Hello Unacademians, this is me Vignesh NP and I'm here to present the daily practice series for GRE Reading Comprehension, and this is our 12th day, and let's move on to today's objective. As usual, we'll just read one passage and we'll solve 3 questions related to it. Okay, so the cheat sheet for today. So cheat number 1 is that reading passages are drawn from many different disciplines and sources. This is not cheat exactly, but I'm telling you that it's drawn from many disciplines and sources, and you may encounter unfamiliar material. Okay, but don't be discouraged when you encounter unfamiliar material. You would be like, oh, this I don't know about anything about this passage or something. Don't worry, all the questions can be answered on the basis of the information provided in the passage. Okay, so please don't worry if the material in the passage is unknown to you, unfamiliar to you. Okay, so let's move on to today's passage, and it's the passage number 12 of our course, and it deals with alchemy. Okay, so what does alchemy mean? Turning any base metal into gold. That's what alchemy means. Okay, that art. So let's read about it. The earliest authentic work on European alchemy are those of the English monk Roger Bacon and the German philosopher St. Albertus Magnus. In their treatise, they maintained that gold was the perfect metal and that inferior metals such as lead and mercury were removed by various degrees of imperfection from gold. They further asserted that these base metals could be transmuted to gold by blending them with a substance even more perfect than gold. This elusive substance was referred to as the philosopher's stone. Most of the early alchemists were artisans who were accustomed to keeping trade secrets and often resorted to cryptic terminology to record the progress of their work. The term sun was used for gold, moon for silver, and the 5 known planets for base metals. This convention of substituting symbolic language attracted a group of mystical philosophers who compared the search for the perfect metal with the struggle of mankind for the perfection of the soul. The philosophers began to use the artisan's term in the mystical literature that they produced. Thus, by the 14th century, alchemy had developed two distinct groups of practitioners, the laboratory alchemist and the literary alchemist. So you would have understood what the passage is all about. Passage talks about how the alchemy began and how what is the philosopher's stone and how, what type of alchemist are there and all that. So you would have got what is the summary of the passage. So let's move on to our question number 1. What is the author's main point or the summary? 1, or the A point, that they were both laboratory and literary alchemists. B, that the philosopher's stone was essential to alchemy. C, that Roger Bacon and St. Albertus Magnus wrote about alchemy. And D, that base metals can be transmuted to gold by blending them with a substance more perfect than gold. So when you see the options, as always, I try to say to you that see the options in its own merit. When you see the options, you would think that all the things were mentioned in the passage. But the thing is, which point is there throughout the passage? You should see throughout the passage which point is relevant. When we see that base metals can be transmuted into gold by blending them with a substance more perfect than gold. Yes, they are talking about that in this, that further asserted that base metals can be transmuted, but that's just a secondary idea. As I told you, there are main ideas and secondary ideas. So this is just a secondary idea. So what is the main idea here? I would say that is, you would see in this final line, thus by the 14th century, alchemy had developed two distinct group of practitioners, the laboratory alchemist and the literary alchemist. Thus, and this word. The thing is that till now, the passages we read had the options or the answers, the summary answers we could get from the first lines itself. You can see, you can refer to the previous videos where we had seen the summaries in the first line itself. We would understand what was the summary in the first line itself. But here, the peculiar feature is that you will only understand what is the summary in the last line. Thus, by the 14th century, alchemy had developed two distinct group of practitioners, the laboratory alchemist and the literary alchemist. So option A is the right answer. Philosopher's Stone was essential to alchemy. Yeah, they are talking about that, and they are also talking about that Roger Bacon and St. Albertus Magnus wrote about alchemy. But these B, C, and D are just secondary ideas to the major idea, that is this one, that both laboratory and literary alchemists exist. You can see all throughout the passage they are talking about the early alchemist and how early alchemist gave rise to the literary alchemist and all that. So you can see it's all about the laboratory alchemist and literary alchemist more than any other thing. So our option is A. A is our correct option. So let's move on to the question number 2. So who were the first alchemists? A. They were chemists. B. They were writers. C. They were artisans. And D. They were linguists. So, it's a pretty straightforward question. You could just move on to the passage and then we will see who were the first alchemists. You can see most of the early alchemists were artisans, so who were accustomed to keeping trade secrets. So, the correct option here is that they were artisans. C. So, were they chemists? Let us see. So they are talking about the chemists here also, but it's something different. And they are not talking about linguists or writers. There is no option of this chemist. They're talking about writers somewhere, right? So you can see here that they are talking about how the first people were writers too, but not. You can see here that choice B refers to the second group, not the first group of alchemists. Let's see here. After this, the philosophers began to use the artisans' terms in the mystical literature that they produced. So, after the artisans, the group of people who became alchemists were writers. First were artisans, then writers. Okay, so writers is not the answer. They were not linguists, not chemists. There is no mention about chemists or linguists in the passage. So, no. So, the correct option is option C. Option C is the right answer. I hope you have got that answer. So, let's move on to our final question. What was philosopher's stone? Lead which was mixed with gold. B. An element that was never found. C. Another name for alchemy. And D. A base metal. So for this you would have to understand the meaning of some words in the passage. You would have some problem with some words in the passage like transmuted. What does transmuted mean? Transmuted means to change. Base metals could be changed to gold. And in that sentence, you would see they further asserted that these base metals could be transmuted to gold by blending them with a substance even more perfect than gold. This elusive substance was referred to as philosopher's stone. What does elusive mean? Elusive means it's hard to get or it's impossible to get. That kind of substance. So, philosopher's stone was never a stone. You understood? So if you have seen the Harry Potter series, you would know that they are talking about the Philosopher's Stone there too, but in a different passage. That the Philosopher's Stone is a very important kind of a thing in the history of humankind. It is an elusive substance there is no Philosopher's Stone found till now. Okay, elusive substance means there is no Philosopher's Stone till now, that it is not found out that there is a Philosopher's Stone till now. That's the meaning of elusive. So which is the option? You can see here lead which was mixed with gold. No, that's not the answer. An element that was never found. Yes, philosopher's stone is an element, not a stone, and it was never found out. It is elusive. So B is the right answer. It's not another name for alchemy, no, and it's not a base metal. Okay, it's the thing that should be added to the base metal. This plus philosopher's stone, we will get gold. That's how old people thought, that if a base metal plus philosopher's stone is added, you would get the gold. But till now, there is no perfect research on that, and that philosopher's stone exists. Okay, so I think, okay, so this is the explanation you can see in this slide for the extra explanations. So I hope you have done well this time. Okay, so I think it was a nice passage today, and Please try to rate, review, and recommend my courses. And if you have any kinds of problem, please try to comment on the comment section. Okay, so thank you and have a good day.